Hi, my name is Matty Starforth. I've been involved in the health and fitness industry for over 10 years. So what I want to do today is just spend a little bit of time and talk around the benefits of exercise. So we're just going to highlight, how much we should do, what we should be looking to do, what counts as exercise. But I'm also going to tie everything together just so you have a good picture of, the guidelines that we hear, but how we can implement those into our daily lives. So first thing I want to do, and I always like to do this, is just a little bit of a true or false type game. So I'm just going to read out some things quickly, and I want you in your heads just to have a think. Do you think exercise would benefit the following? So do we think exercise would benefit weight loss? The answer is yes. Does exercise make us feel better? Again, the answer is yes. Now, when we do exercise, we release endorphins in the brain, which is a hormone which give us a positive feeling. So, has there ever been a time where you thought you can't be bothered to do some exercise, or when you thought, you're just not going to do something, and you've actually either made yourself do it or a friend's actually made you do it and you feel good? That is that feel-good factor of exercise. That is the endorphins in the body. So we always encourage people to try and do some exercise because you will feel better at the end of it. Does exercise help with diabetes? Does exercise help with cholesterol levels? And again, the answers are yes. Exercise can help control blood sugar levels, or exercise can reduce the chance of getting diabetes by up to 40%. And again, exercise will reduce cholesterol levels in the body. So again, cholesterol can be impacted again by nutrition. I'm going to touch a little bit upon that later on in the talk. But if we do some form of regular exercise, then again our cholesterol levels will reduce. Does exercise prevent any heart conditions? Does exercise prevent any strokes? Does exercise prevent any blood pressure issues? And again, there's a bit of a common theme coming here, but the answer is yes to all three of those. So exercise reduces the chance of any cardiovascular diseases. Again, that can be around about 20%, which is a big number. Exercise can reduce systolic and diastolic blood pressure. Again, long-term benefit of exercise is reducing that. So again, there's a chance that we can, reduce medications, can generally just get the body to be a little bit healthier and functioning a little bit better. What about certain cancers? So again, exercise can reduce the chance of certain cancers by up to 20%, and that can be colon and breast cancer. But it can also reduce the chance of reoccurrence, which I think is a huge thing. What I've said so far is, do we think about, reduce, can it reduce, the ways where we can reduce it? Can we guarantee any of that? And that's the one time I wish I could say yes, but the answer to that one is no. We can't guarantee anything, but what we can do is reduce the chances and make things less likely, which I think is really important. Does exercise give us more energy? And again, the answer is yes, so it's true, but it's a bit of a flip scenario, because if we don't have much energy, and I'm telling you now to go and do some exercise, it can be a tricky one, especially if we're suffering from fatigue or some of the conditions which are, increasing tiredness. But again, what I would say is start off, do something, do some form of exercise. I'm going to touch upon that again a little bit later, but anything is better than nothing. And when we do some exercise, the second thing I asked around the feel-good factor was, doing that exercise will make us feel a bit better, will increase our energy levels, and we start to get in a bit more of a positive cycle. Is exercise fun? Depends if we're doing the right sort of exercise. Is exercise social? Again, exercise can have great social benefits, which again gives us a mental well-being and a mental health benefit as well, which is really important. So touching on mental health, everything I've said so far is physical. So does exercise have mental health benefits? So what about stress, depression, anxiety, self-esteem? All of these can be improved by doing some form of exercise. And again, it doesn't matter what we do, we can benefit them. Exercise can improve sleep patterns. It can improve concentration. It can improve bone strength, bone density. All can be improved through doing some form of exercise. It can increase muscle mass. It can improve flexibility and mobility. So I've rattled off loads of conditions there. absolute big range of conditions which can be benefit and can be improved from exercise. And I always finish the first part of this talk with this question is, can we guarantee anything? And again, as I said earlier, unfortunately not, but we can reduce the risk and we can improve our chances, which I think is really important. Why is exercise important with breast cancer? So we spoke earlier, we can reduce the chance of certain cancers, we can reduce the chances of reoccurrences. But one thing that I think is really important for us to consider is it isn't a one size fits all. So we all have different experiences, we all have different recovery rates, different lifestyles which have impacted on where we currently are. So I think the one thing is, it's not a one size fits all and we are all different. I think it's really important in terms of exercise to know your own body and to listen to how you feel. So, we have just spoke about all the benefits of exercise around, fatigue, around energy levels and all the health conditions which can be improved. But you do know your body better than anyone. And I think there will be some days where it's really important just to say, I'm going to have a rest today. And there's nothing wrong with that because we are all different. And one of the best examples I always like to use is we've always got a friend who's done something quicker or done something better than what we can do. In the example I use is people who have a knee injury might say, oh, I was back walking within 2 weeks. I was back on the bike. And if we're not, that can make us feel as if we're not achieving things as quick as we should. So I think listen to your body, do what you can do what you're capable of doing, but we always look to make a gradual improvement. So how much should we be doing? So again, we know the benefits, we know what we can get, we know why we should do some exercise, we know we've got to listen to our body, but how much should we do? Now there is actual guidelines of what we should do, but what I'm going to say to start off with is anything is better than nothing. If we are doing nothing at all and we do some form of movement, some form of exercise, that is a step in the right direction. So that's the first point I want to say is, yeah, we're going to learn the benefits, we're going to learn the guidelines, but let's focus on doing something. Now the guidelines used to state, 30 minutes of moderate intensity 5 days a week. So that's what the guidelines were. So they kind of combined that to where they said, right, 115 minutes of moderate intensity per week or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity or a combination of them both. So, basically we can do it how we feel. We can do what benefits us and how we want to do it. But 30 minutes a day might seem a lot initially. So go back to what I've just said at the start, anything is better than nothing. If we do 5 minutes and then 5 minutes later on the day, there's 10 minutes of exercise. It doesn't have to be in one go. 10 minutes is 20 minutes short of the 30-minute guideline, but it's 10 minutes more than you used to do. And that's the way I look to do it. And that's the way when we think around exercise, think around how we can build it up. Now, as well with exercise, moderate intensity is really important. But what is moderate intensity? So the easiest way to figure out if we are working at that moderate intensity is if we are, 3 things to tick off. If we are breathing a little bit heavier, if we are feeling a little bit warmer, and if we are starting to sweat a little bit, you are probably at the right level of exercise. So just listen to our body, listen to how we feel. Now the other thing with the 30 minutes a day is if I do 30 minutes of exercise, that leaves 23 and a half hours where I could possibly do nothing. So movement is really important. So as well as getting those 30 minutes of exercise in, remember all the other little activities of daily living. So things that we possibly don't consider to be exercise. So that might be when we're doing some housework, when we are going shopping, when we're taking the dog for a walk. All of these little activities of daily living, so things that we have to do day in, day out, things that we possibly don't think about, can actually add up towards our exercise. So have a little think around that. And the other thing as well is how many steps a day should we do? Because the step count is a great way to see if we're on the right track. And the answer is, again, a guideline is 10,000 steps per day. Now, if you look and at the moment we're only doing 1,000 steps a day, don't think about 10. Think around 2, think around 1,500. Think around gradual ways in which we could improve our step count, because to improve the step count means we're moving more. So if we are moving more, that means we are doing more exercise. Can we incorporate some form of strength-based exercise, some form of flexibility-based exercise? And sometimes, strength, a lot of people think around lifting weights in the gym. Strength could be carrying the shopping. Strength could be, stuff that we do at home. But any of those strength-based or impact-based exercise can help our bone strength as well. So again, there's the added benefit of daily tasks. Because if we improve our fitness levels, we improve our physical activity, and it makes our day-to-day tasks a bit easier, again, that's putting us in a positive frame of mind. So then things become a bit easier, we feel a bit better, we get a little bit healthier, we continue with the exercise, we start to make those gradual improvements, and we start to increase the exercise that we do. But it's important to be aware of what the guidelines are, but it's important not to compare ourselves to the guidelines. And I think that's a really important thing to consider, that the guidelines are there for us to aim towards, but it's about how we improve them, how we increase them. During any form of treatment, during any health condition that we may have, generally our cardiovascular fitness and our muscular strength will decrease. So if we went back a few years ago, the general advice would be to rest, to look after yourself, not to do anything. If through our conditions, our fitness levels and muscular strength are decreasing, but we also choose not to do anything on the advice, then we're going to speed up that process. So during, before, after any form of treatment, any form of exercise is good. It will increase our recovery rates. But as we've spoke about again, and I always like to loop everything back, if we are doing some form of exercise and we're feeling a little bit better from doing it, getting some of the health benefits from doing it, it's important that we keep that up all the time. You know your body better than anyone. And that is one of the main bits of advice which I want to give. What should we do? Everyone is different. What do we need to do? So key bits of advice around exercise. And these are really simple, but probably the best bits of advice that I can give today is find something you enjoy. Now, no matter what that is, everyone's different. If you enjoy doing something, you are more likely to keep it up. If you hate the gym, don't go to the gym. If you hate swimming, don't go swimming. When your motivation is high, you'll do it. Find what moves you. Now, that is a great slogan from one of the campaigns which I'm going to touch upon at the end. But if it's something which moves you, something which gets you going, that means you do enjoy it. That means you're going to continue with it. And make it fun. If exercise isn't fun, why are you going to keep it up? So make it fun, make it enjoyable, make it sociable, and just move a little bit. So a few little campaigns just to make us aware of is the This Girl Can campaign is a really good resource, and it shows lots of information around activities, around tips, health tips, exercise tips. We also have the Sport England Join the Movement campaign as well, which again is a national campaign to get more people active, get more people doing some form of exercise. But to sum things up, and I always like to say this, is we now know the benefits. We now know why we should be doing some exercise. We now know how much we should do. We now know what counts. But the most important thing is find something you enjoy, stick to it, make it fun, try and continue, and make us feel better. But what I think ties really in well with exercise is our nutrition. So, overall health is generally through our physical activity, but also what we put into the body, the fuel which comes into the body. And again, that dictates our energy balance and things like that. So there is a lot of fads diets, there's a lot of recommended diets, there's a lot of specific diets that we should follow depending on any health conditions. What this talk is going to look at is generalized. So we aren't going to explain specific conditions. We are going to show what the food groups are, what we should look to do, how much we should look to do from these food groups as a general guide from the NHS guidelines. So the Eat Well guide generally comprises of 5 different food groups. So we have our fruit and vegetables, our carbohydrates, which is things like bread, pasta, rice, potatoes. We have our proteins, which is our meat, fish, alternatives, beans, pulses. We have our dairy foods, so cheese, milk, yogurts. We have our oils and spreads. So I'm going to touch upon those 5 food groups, explain a little bit around portions, a little bit of the benefits that we get from these food groups. When we look at portion sizes for fruit and vegetables, we look to have a minimum of 5. Now the majority of people would have recommended 5 a day. The actual guideline is a minimum of 5 a day, but that is 5 different varieties. So a few little things is, so an apple would be a portion. So I'm just going to show you a few little portions. Now with our fruit and vegetables, the easiest guide is if it fits in the palm of your hand, it is a portion. Whether that be fresh, frozen, tinned, dried is slightly smaller, which I'm going to touch upon, but if it fits in the palm of your hand or it is 80 grams, it counts as a portion. So an apple would be a portion, an orange would be a portion, an onion would be a portion. So with our fruit and veg, now what do we get? We get vitamins, we get minerals, and we get antioxidants, little bits of fibre from the fruit and veg, but we need to go for different colours. So try and go for what they call a rainbow effect. So if I have 1 apple, that's ticked 1 of my portions. If I have 2 apples, that is still only 1 of my portions. So it's good to go for different colours, for the different varieties, because different colours have different vitamins, different minerals, and then they give your body a little bit of goodness. So we aim for different variety. Fresh, frozen, tinned, dried, juiced, all counts. A few things just to be wary of. Any dried fruit obviously has a high concentration of sugar. Now the sugar found within fruit is fructose. So it's a natural occurring sugar, but it is a form of sugar. Now if we have dried fruit, we look for the palm of your hand. And if we have any tinned fruit, ensure that we get it in its natural juices, not in any form of syrup, because again it just has a little bit of higher concentration of sugar. So it's something to be aware of, but go for different colours, and it's a minimum of 5 a day. Juices count as well, but again the process of juicing means it has a really higher concentration of sugar, so it's only around about 150 millilitres of orange juice, apple juice, which would count towards. And the one difference with those sort of foods, as soon as we have 1 glass of juice, that is the only one which will count. So if I had apple juice, orange juice, pineapple juice, tomato juice all in one day, I've only had 1 of my portions. So I'm going to move on to our carbohydrates, which is the second biggest food groups. Now a lot of diets will kind of give carbohydrates a bit of a grey area in terms of, you know, should we cut them down, should we have them? Now what I'm going to touch upon again, as I said at the start, is the generalised advice. Now carbohydrates give us our energy source. So I've just spent the first part of this talk discussing, you know, how we should do some exercise, how, you know, exercise is important. To do any form of exercise, any form of movement requires energy. So think of it about, you know, the analogy of putting petrol into a car. So we've used all the petrol up through the exercise, we need to get the right energy or the right foods coming into the body. Carbohydrates gives us that energy source. So things like our bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, that's what gives us our energy source. Now, if we are thinking around, you know, weight issues, around general health, if we have too much energy, so too many carbohydrates within a day, that can lead to weight gain. It can lead to too much energy coming in the body. So this is where it gets a little bit of a grey area. Now, 6 to 8 portions of carbohydrates is what we should look to have a day. Now, things like a slice of bread would be a portion, a small bun would be a portion, 3 heaped tablespoons of any cereal would be a portion, Weetabix would be a portion, medium-sized jacket potato, and again we have some porridge, so around about 30 grams of porridge. Those are just a few of the examples, but with the Eat Well guide and with carbohydrates, what we need to be wary of is A, overeating, because then we get too much energy, but also what we add to the carbohydrates. So if I have a slice of bread and I'm adding butter, you know, full fat mayonnaise, it isn't the bread which is the issue for my overall health, it's possibly what I add to it. Now the other thing is around whole grain, brown versions, white versions, anything which is whole grain takes your body longer to digest. So it keeps you feeling fuller for longer. So that's why it is recommended to try and have some of the whole grain versions, or, you know, your brown versions of bread, pasta, rice. They will keep you feeling fuller for longer. There is a slightly different taste, but your taste buds adapt over time. They will have a benefit if we do try and go for that version. they keep your blood sugar levels steadier for longer, so they stop us craving food within a shorter period of time. So carbohydrates, just to recap, 6 to 8 portions a day. Go for a variety. The difference with fruit and vegetables with carbohydrates is I can have more than one. So if I have 2 slices of bread, that means I've had 2 portions of me 6 to 8. Now again, that's a guideline. If I have 3 slices of bread, that means I've had 3 portions. But again, variety is good. So it's really important to go for different types, because we eat food for enjoyment. I think we eat the foods we like, you eat the foods you like, because we enjoy those sort of foods. And most diets aren't enjoyable, and I think that's why people give up, because they're not enjoying the foods. So go for a variety, go for different types of foods. So I'm just going to move around into our protein, so our meats, fish, beans and alternatives. So again, the main source from that food group, our protein, is important for muscle growth and muscle repair. So again, this isn't about thinking I'm going to get big and muscly and gain loads of muscles. It's about possibly ensuring the muscle that we have, repairing the muscle that we do have through the forms of exercise that we do. Any form of exercise works your muscles. So we want to ensure that we get the right sort of foods coming into the body. So again, with our protein, it is things like our eggs. So 2 eggs would be a portion. And we look to have, round about 2 to 3 portions a day. So 2 eggs would be a portion. Things like these tinned fishes are great, because we want to try and have some form of oily fish as well. So oily fish is great for omega-3, which is good for our heart health. So these little tins are ideal in terms of what a portion are. If we are looking for regular fish, then imagine the size of your hand is a great guide to go off. If we are thinking of any of our darker meats, so beef, any of those sort of meats, think of a palmful. So these are just simple guides to know if we're roughly having the right amount of foods, because any food group we can overeat from quite easily. So any of our meats, think of the palm of your hand. Any of our fish, think of your hand. But think how we cook these foods as well. So all of these foods, if we are cooked in oils, the cooking methods can determine the fat amount from those foods. So it's important just to think how we cook them. Any of the white meats and fishes are leaner, so they have less fat in. But again, take the skin off the chicken, cut any visible fat off the meats. If we are vegetarian, then we can get our protein through things like pulses, beans. And again, we're looking at a couple heaped tablespoons would give us a portion. Half a tin of beans, the 200-gram tins, would give you a portion. So it's about ensuring that we get protein in, because it's really important for our muscle strength, and again for our just general movement, general body functions. We want to have the protein in. Just going to move on to our dairy foods now. So dairy foods generally contains our milk, cheese and yogurts, and the importance for the dairy foods is to get the calcium into the body. So the calcium, that nutrient, is really important for our bone strength and our bone health. But when we look at the 3 main types of dairy foods, so if we consider our milk, the different types of milk don't differ in terms of the calcium content. So full fat, semi-skimmed, best of both, all the different versions of milk have that calcium content. So again, if we are lactose intolerant, which is the sugar in milk, then again we have different forms of milk. But again, without going into specifics, your soy milk, your almond milk, there is different advice around those. But what we're going to do is look around generalized advice today. So with our milk, try and go for semi-skimmed or below. Cheese is a great source of calcium, but cheese is very high in fat. So for the portion sizes for this food group, we are looking for around about 3 portions. So about 200 mils of milk would be the portion. So we've just discussed milk. With our cheese, imagine a matchstick box size, or the top part of your fingers counts as a portion of cheese. Cheese is very moorish. Cheese is very easy to overeat. So we are getting the calcium, but we're also getting a high amount of fat intake from cheese. So just something to be wary of, something to consider when we are looking to make positive changes with our nutrition. But that dairy foods, again, the 3 portions is really important for our bone health. And as an aging process, conditions like osteoporosis can be benefited from doing the exercise, but it's also important that we get the nutrients into the body. So that calcium nutrient is really important for our bone health. So I'm going to move around. So when we look at the Eat Well guide, the food groups are generally getting smaller. So our fruit and veg is the biggest, Carbohydrates, is slightly smaller. We then get the protein and dairy as discussed, but they are getting smaller amounts. And it leaves one food group, which is our oils and spreads. So when we consider our oils and spreads, the guideline is actually 0 to 2 portions a day, because we will get some form of fat from the meats that we eat. But with our oils and spreads, it is literally what we cook with and the butters that we may use. So when we think of any butter, we're looking at literally the top part of your finger would be a portion. So if we're putting a couple of slices of bread, I spoke about the carbohydrates in terms of it's what we add to them. We may be up to 2-3 portions of fats, of oils and spreads, before we've even considered anything unhealthy. In terms of what we cook with, can we get the spray oils? So, a tablespoon of cooking oil, or even pouring out the bottle, can contain a lot of calories, contain a lot of fat. Get the spray oils, it's a great invention. 1 cal sprays, if you spray that 10 times, there's 10 calories, give or take. If you pour out a bottle, we don't know what we've had. So your body does need some form of fat. There are certain vitamins in the body which can be transported only around in fat. So it is important that we do have fat in the body. But most people generally overeat in terms of nutrients which are high in fat, which then can lead to weight gain or certain conditions. Extra weight can put stress on the body. So it's a bit of a cycle in terms of, can we make positive little changes, little tweaks to our nutrition, so that we improve our overall health, in our general health and fitness. So I touched upon fat there, but the one thing I haven't discussed, and I asked you at the start of this, can you guess the food group which is missing? And the food group which I haven't spoke around yet is probably what we all class to be the good food, the nice food, the comfort food, but it's what gets classed as our junk type food, shall we say. Foods which are high in fat, foods which are high in sugar. So our crisps, biscuits, chocolate, sweets, cakes, all these sort of things, unfortunately, they don't actually have a place within the Eat Well guide. So they don't have a place within our recommended food groups. That doesn't mean we can't have them though. And I think this is really important, is the difference between healthy eating and a diet is, healthy eating, you can have anything you want, but within moderation. So the government guideline around foods which are high in fat, high in sugar is really vague, but really good in my opinion, because what they recommend is, can we have these food groups not as much? Can we have them not as often? Can we have them in smaller amounts? So those phrases are very vague. But if I'm having crisps less often, if I'm having slightly less chocolate, if I'm not eating as many biscuits, then I'm reducing the calorie content, I'm reducing the fat intake from those sort of foods. It isn't saying I can't have them, but I'm consciously starting to eat a little bit less. Now, those sort of foods are generally classed as snacks as well. But what's one of the best forms of snacks that we could have? The first food group I spoke around, fruit and veg. I get asked the question quite a lot, crisps and biscuits, they're just easy to grab. They're just as easy to grab as fruit. I'm not arguing they taste the same, but what I am saying is, sometimes as a conscious choice, could we go for the healthier option, get all the vitamins and minerals, so then we are consciously cutting down on the food group which doesn't actually have a place in the Eat Well guide. And the other thing which is really important is what we drink. So the fluids that we take in, so 6 to 8 glasses of fluid a day. So that can be water, teas and coffees counted, any form of juices. Be wary of regular sodas or full sugar pops, because they contain a lot of calories. So when we think around what we drink, things like our full sugar pops, full fat pop as it can be called, try and go for different versions of fluids. Try, water is the best thing that we can drink. And unfortunately, alcohol doesn't have a place within the Eat Well guide as well, but that is a different topic within itself. So just quick little recap around the nutrition. So our fruit and vegetable, main food group, minimum of 5 a day. Carbohydrates gives us our energy, and we are looking for 6 to 8 portions a day. Protein is really important for our muscle mass and muscle strength, and again we are looking for around about 3 portions. Our dairy foods are really important for the calcium, for our bone strength, and then our oils and spreads do have a function for certain vitamins, minerals, and for our body as a whole, but it is a really small food group. And then just cut down on those unhealthy foods that we eat, because to recap it all, if we are doing more exercise, improving our fitness levels, improving our health, and improving the food and the nutrients which come into the body, that puts us into a positive cycle. And again, it doesn't always mean it's going to be easy to do those sort of choices, but doing a little bit more exercise has all the benefits we've discussed. Eating a little bit healthy can sometimes improve our mood as well, because the mood and food has a huge relationship as well. So if we're eating right and exercising more, we're on the right track. Thank you very much.